back to the Villa View, or as it might be tonight, the Villa Spew, because I am not feeling good after yesterday's antics on the away day. As you'd have just seen on Twitter, a little bit too jazzy for me. But this is the Purity post-match pint. And even just saying the word Purity is making me feel very, very ill. I'm joined by Neil from the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, which I cannot believe I've got out my mouth correctly. Neil, how are you?
I'm okay. I'm a bit better today than I was yesterday. It was like you. I wasn't even drinking yesterday, but I felt a small bit hungover, and I wasn't even doing. But today I'm feeling a small bit better. Watch back the game, and I think the biggest piece for me is that you can see coachable points, you can see fixable points in it, and just one of those days, unfortunately.
Yeah, kind of day I wasn't really expecting. I can definitely say that I was not expecting to be going to Vicarage Road and sitting there and watching us 3-0 down at any point. I don't know whether I was overconfident, but Villa was certainly undercooked. I saw someone else use that word on Twitter earlier. Just didn't really look at the races from minute one. It was slow going forward, Neil, and also just lethargic in every single way, really.
You know what? It reminded me of a game last season. I don't know. I think we might be back.
We are, but it's just your mug on the screen, mate.
It's just my mug in the screen still.
I think we're there. Maybe we're there. Are we back? Can someone in the chat please let me know if we're back on air? We're back. Dean says we're back. Right, back, apologies for that. Hopefully you all like Neil's face, because I tell you what, you've just spent about 5 minutes looking at it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Neil, do you want to pick up where you left off? I'd say it's a great start to the season, honestly. Villa.
Just like Villa's midfield at times yesterday, I went missing in action there. So it was it was quite apt, really. But I was saying that it kind of reminded me, parts of that game yesterday reminded me of when we played Brighton last season. It was one of those games we kind of, I'm not going to say we expected to win, but it was one of those games that we went into with our game plan, and they just came out with something in the first half that just completely blew us away. And the way that Brighton beat us last season was very similar and very symptomatic of the way that we were beaten yesterday. They overran us in midfield, and then what they did was they just shifted it out to their right hand side. Target for the first goal was drawn completely forward, which is fine because we were in a position of attack when Buendia loses the ball. We were in a position of attack, and that's it. The whole thing just stems from there. They were able to just literally leave a man out wide so that they could stretch us. Our midfield spacing was all over the place throughout the whole lot of the game yesterday, and that doesn't help our fullbacks. So it was just one of those games, I think, yesterday that I think if I had any kind of massive kind of concern over it, was that it was kind of like a rocket for the team. It was kind of just kind of, lads, remember, this is the league and it started again, and no matter who we play, if we, they're going to have a game plan, and we need to be ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, I fully expect Watford to still get relegated. I think we'll look back at that at the end of the season. I think that was a really bad result. I think we made them look good. I don't see them doing anything particularly great in the Premier League this season. They'll be fishing around down the bottom. But as I say, we made them look good. And Matt Targett will be the one who everyone looks at. And you've just said there was reasons for him having problems and getting overloaded down that side. He wasn't alone, but he didn't look fit, did he? At all. He hasn't played, because he played one in pre-season. I think Buendia, might have only played one in pre-season. If you come in against the Premier League and you're playing against a team whose players all looked fit, which Watford's did, you're going to be in trouble, and you will lose goals, and you can't give anyone a 3-0 head start in the Premier League.
That's completely true as well. And it's, I suppose, really, when you think about it, I never really thought about the fitness factor, because you just kind of expect athletes to be fit. You expect professionals to be fit. And it's funny, because when you say fit, then there's fit, and then there's Premier League fit, and there's match fitness, and obviously having the Sevilla game cancelled, having the Forest game cancelled, and I know that they played 2 behind closed door friendlies when they were in London as well, and then obviously the Salernitana game, but I suppose really they would have been gearing themselves up for maybe games of bigger intensity. The Forest game would have been one, I suppose, that they probably would have looked at. It was right smack bang in the middle of their schedule. And then obviously the Sevilla game was one where they would have gone up against the opposition, and they would have probably looked at maybe playing a more a stronger squad in that game, but obviously it didn't work out that way. They had a semi-rigorous training in front of the fans on the Saturday, and then they had the Salernitana game. And when you're kind of going into a game like that, I suppose you don't know what they're going to bring when they come over, because nobody knows what way the game is going to go, and you're probably going to rest one or two players because you're going, listen, there could be a late challenge here from somebody who's a bit sour at having to play this game. It wasn't one that was on their schedule, so there's probably a lot of little intricacies. But when you talk about fitness, and when you talk about I suppose the level of fitness, it's I'm not going to say it's concerning, because I would say if you were to poll every single Premier League player, no Premier League player feels fit in the first day of the season. It's just none of them have to face up against Ismail Assar for 45 minutes with no protection in front of them.
Yeah, unfortunate that they didn't get rid of him a year or so ago when they got relegated and someone didn't take him off their hands, because I did not enjoy watching him go up against us in that first half yesterday, attacking the way end, and we just didn't look comfortable. The thing I noticed the most was the defence, the back four. They looked uncomfortable on the ball. They also looked uncomfortable when they were being attacked, but that kind of fits in with what you were saying about the midfield being the problem before we came on air. I mean, that if you haven't got anyone to pass to, you're going to look uncomfortable on the ball, and we lumped it forward a few times, and I just think we're lumping it in towards Danny Ings and Buendia. It's going to come straight back, and then when they're coming at you as well, we looked equally as uncomfortable in that situation as well. And the midfield just seemed to get bypassed so easily, and Watford would be up against the back four or two on one with the overload. It was just too many times. It was just a really uncomfortable afternoon.
I remember last season, Dan, the two of us sat here. I don't remember what game it was, but I remember we did a post-match point, and it was when Barkley played in a flat midfield three. And I got the sense of, I can't remember what game it was, but it would have been maybe in around March. It was.
We didn't like that flat midfield three at any point, did we?
No. And the first half, it tended to rear its head again, that flat midfield three with Buendia. So what it looked like was Buendia, Marvelous, and McGinn were more or less in a line. But what the really, really strange thing that I saw was happening, and I have a piece coming out on tomorrow. Marvelous Nakamba was breaking the line and going forward. Now, I'm not going to single out any player for criticism, but I can't sit here and think that he was told to do that, just based on his skill set and based on what we know he does. And if that is a symptom of the flat midfield three, whereby it's basically wherever the ball is, the man in the line goes to meet the ball. That didn't work for us, and that left our fullbacks very, very exposed. John McGinn is the only one of those three, I think, that has the covering speed to get back and to get into those positions. For the first goal, when the first goal went in, Nakamba didn't have the pace to get back. Somebody needed to get back onto Dennis. McGinn broke his posterior to get to Ismail Assar because Target couldn't get back. It's just the spacing. Once again, the spacing in midfield was all over the place. McGinn was the nearest one to it, and he was able to get back and get towards the crosser of the ball. But normally where Douglas Luiz would be in, he's really, really good at retreating and filtering back to protect that D in front of the box, even in a counter-attack. Nakamba didn't have the pace to do that. He didn't have the positioning to do it, and he was out of position, so he wasn't able to do it. And what happened was Dennis gets the ball, hits it off Konza, and the ball comes back to him, and there's no one within an ass's roar of him. And actually, as he strikes it in, you see Nakamba run towards the back post for some reason. So I'm not quite sure what way the spacing was set up. I'd love to sit down and see what the tactics board was beforehand. But if it was supposed to be a flat midfield three, it really left our fullbacks exposed. And if Nakamba was given license to go forward and to try and seek the ball higher up the field, it just didn't work. And I'm not saying it was the wrong tactic to play. It just didn't work on this game. And maybe there will be some games when it does work, but yesterday just wasn't it.
Got to be honest, I'm not one for criticising team selections before games, and I didn't say anything on Twitter when I saw the team because I don't like being negative going to game. But I looked at that team and thought, there's a few things I'm not sure about there. I mean, it's got to have been years since Ashley Young played on the flanks in the Premier League. He's been a fullback or a wing back in recent years. He hasn't played as a winger for a number of years now, and I just don't think El Ghazi on the right hand side works. I don't think it suits him. He's better on the left. He likes to cut in, try a skill, get a shot away, or whip a crossing. If you put him on the right hand side, you're completely negating that. And when you looked at the like positional heat map of where people spent their time, the average positions in the game, El Ghazi was basically in a 10 position, but I don't remember him really picking up the ball in any of those spaces through the game. But if you're going to do that, you need Cash to then be bombing on. Even in the second half, I saw Dean Smith absolutely go mental at Matty Cash at one point near the end of the game for not bombing on. There seemed to be a reluctance to get forward. With those two on the wings, I would have said you need your fullbacks to bomb on. But we saw when Target did it, they got caught out. And Watford just kind of put the fear into us a little bit. But what did you think of the team selection? Because I thought it was a bit of an odd team because we haven't seen Ashley Young play on the flanks at all in pre-season. Then there he is, day one Premier League. He's playing left flank.
You know what? I didn't mind the team selection, and I can understand why he was playing left flank because
you're wrong and I'm right now because we lost 3-2.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
You broke up there slightly, so I didn't quite hear what you said. And I said, I can't bullshit this one.
I said you're wrong and I'm right because we lost 3-2 now.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. But I think that the reason that Ashley Young was played there was with the view of maybe trying to curtail Ismail Assar, but there was no curtailing him. He'd eaten his Weetabix yesterday morning, and he was just on form. Like, there would have been very few fullbacks would have been able to, like, when he was in full flight, he was like a gazelle going down that lane. He was brilliant.
I agree with that a little bit, but I don't think he did anything that really special. He's got a bit of pace, Yeah, Newcastle next week. So Maximan's got pace and a bag of tricks. If we shouldn't be in trouble from just basic pace, and that was to me what it felt like.
No, but I think what he did was, like, he didn't make mistakes when he had these opportunities. Like, how many times do we see maybe when, like, I'm going to call El Ghazi. When El Ghazi gets the ball, he needs a couple of chances to score, a couple of chances to put a decent ball into the box. Sometimes, depending on what side of the bed he gets out of. Ismail Assar, just what he needed to do, he did it, and he was just on form. He was up for an opening day with a new crowd, with a fresh crowd, I suppose, in Vicarage Road, all cheering him on, and he was good. But like second half, he went out of it when Ashley Young went back.
I didn't see him in the second half.
Yeah, Ashley Young marshaled him in the second half, and I think bringing on Jacob Ramsey made a big difference to the situation too, because there's a bit of boldness in Jacob Ramsey, and for the third goal, it was actually we actually tried to cleave down Kuchka. I think his name is Kuchka.
He was good.
He was good. Yeah, he was a bit of an enforcer in midfield. Yeah,
must admit I'd never seen him play before, and I thought, wow, he's big. He's not giving the ball away, and he's winning it back. We could do someone like that.
Yeah, and I think hopefully there's over the next couple of weeks we'll get somebody in there. But first, Marvelous had a nibble at him. He stayed on his feet. Then Jacob Ramsey came in and tried to hit him a haymaker, and he stayed on his feet. And what happened was, when Ramsey came in and tackled him, the ball squirts perfectly to Kuko, the guy who had just come on, Hernandez, behind Konza. Konza has to turn. Hernandez has an opportunity to basically, even if Konza was getting back to him, Hernandez could stand him up and go inside, which he did. And that's a worldie. That third goal is an absolute worldie. And I know I'm probably guilty an awful lot, and I did it a lot last year, of saying, well, Leeds beat us with some worldies, Southampton beat us with some worldies, but I think you got to call it out when somebody just hits an absolute rasper into the top corner.
I've no problem with the third goal. No problem at all, and that's ultimately the one that really put the game away from us. But you can't be giving teams a head start. Let's go to the first goal. And Constance unlucky. He's put himself in the right place. He's made a good block, and he's gone straight back to him, and he's tucked it away. Old Dennis again, who I've not seen much of until yesterday. Martinez do a little bit better.
Yeah, I think so. I think Birmingham Mail got it right when they said, they said he probably could have saved it. I think he could have.
It's quite close to him, wasn't it?
It was, and there was a man down the ground in front of him as well, but it does go under him.
It does go under him. Second goal was the deflection's unlucky. I mean, stuff like that goes. Actually, you can't do much about it. But the way he got there again was too easy. And by that point, they'd been down that flank 3 or 4 times, and they looked like they were going to score every time they came forward. They seemed to be able to just get inside us and get into in and around the penalty area just way too easily. So yeah, the deflection was unlucky. But you got to stop that at source, especially when you've already, it's happened 2 or 3 times already before that goal. He's got down there too easily. You've got to do something about that, whether it be the staff change something up, or whether the players realise, look, we're in a bit of trouble here, we need to adapt and do something. But didn't really feel like anything happened after it happened 3 times already.
That was the one where Buendia, ball fed to Buendia on the edge of the area, 5 people converged on him and got the ball from him. Villa had actually 6 people. in and around the box at that stage, I think. So it was so basically, it was 1-on-1 all the way up the field after that. That was a really lucky kind of get from Watford. I think Watford gambled there that they were going to be able to snuff out Villa and make them either force them wide or else kind of contain them from the centre. I think I don't think they feared Danny Ings. From the point of view of they knew that Villa would have to come and play the ball into him, and I think that they probably just sat in front of him. And this is one of those opportunities whereby Buendia, I know, picks it up, but he's trying to get it out from under his feet at the edge of the area. The ball breaks down, and I think it's cleverly just sweeps a ball out to the left once again to Sarr. And I think that's what it was. They didn't have to think about where they were playing the ball. They just said, Ismaila Sarr, you pull wide, you stay over there, sweep the ball out to him. Very much like Leeds did last year with Jack Harrison. Very much like Brighton did with, I can't remember who it was. I think it might have been Danny Welbeck. They just plonked him on the right and just basically said, right, when we win the ball back, we'll break. And guess who else did it an awful lot last year? Aston Villa Football Club. When you win the ball, get it out to Jack Grealish as quick as possible, and it allows your defense to set, and it also allows your 2 or 3 midfielders to bomb forward. You are very much dependent on the winger holding the ball, but it's a tactic as old as time, and it really works. When it works, it really, really works. It makes the defense look very, very silly. But when it doesn't work, and it didn't work for Villa a couple of times when they tried to get the ball to El Ghazi quickly yesterday. It made us look ponderous and kind of idealist, I suppose, in attack at times in the first half.
I mean, as I've said earlier, I was a few beers in, but it just felt to me with you talk about Ings and Buendia, who were the 2 highest at the pitch. It felt to me like Buendia was supposed to be playing off Ings. I could be completely wrong. It might have come across differently to you based on what you said earlier, but just felt they smothered us. Yeah. And I felt like it was very easy to do that, very easy to smother us and overwhelm us. And it's one of those patterns that, you remember we played Palace at the back end of last season and we lost 3-2 as well. It feels like we come up against a team who are a bit physical and put themselves about us. We don't really have an answer to it.
That's a great comparison, I think, actually, because their midfielder, that midfielder Kuchka was kind of very like Miljevic, the Crystal Palace. I can't remember if he was even playing last season, but they have that one guy who just gets in there and just is like, he's like a big brother playing football. He's not there because he's the best footballer, but he's there to kind of like Miljevic. He's there to kind of put his foot in it, calm it down, and be a bit of a bully inside there. And we don't have that. Marvelous Nakamba, 5'9", John McGinn, 5'9", Emi Buendia, 5'7". We didn't have that enforcer inside there. And he brushed off those 2 tackles, one from Marvelous Nakamba and one, in fairness, Ramsey took him down, but the ball squirted out to the left for the 3rd goal, as I said. But maybe a bit of a bruiser in midfield. And I'm not saying that he needs to come in and play every single game, but horses for courses situation. If Dean Smith had somebody that he could bring on at halftime, or even and I think Dean Smith might need to get ruthless in certain games this season to change tactics, because we've got so many options that maybe you hook somebody after 25 minutes. We've seen it an awful lot from the top managers, and maybe that happens again this season if we do get somebody, and we need a destroyer, but we need to get one into the team first, and we need to get one in there. But I suppose the biggest thing for me is if we do get another midfielder in there, Dan, and I'm going to ask you a question. If we do get another midfielder,
not today, Neil.
If we do get another midfielder in there, that might mean that we need to drop a £30 million player, and that's never happened in Aston Villa before.
Oh, I think we want to play 4-4-2, don't we? But we couldn't play. I mean, 2 excuses for yesterday that you could offer. One, your top scorer from last season's not playing, and he's really the one that set the tone. He didn't really miss a game last season. I think he only missed 1 game all season through a nothing suspension that should never have happened. But his press was missed. He sets the tone for the team. He chases a lot of lost causes, wins a lot of balls that he's got no right to win. So you've lost him who set the tone that entire season. I'm not answering your question here at all, by the way.
It's okay.
You've also lost, Villa don't seem to be able to win too many football matches without Jack Grealish, and people are going to say again yesterday, we can't win without him.
Man City can't win with him, so
that's true.
That's my go-to until Man City start putting a run together. That's going to be my go-to. Man City can't win with Grealish, but look, it's
either as well.
I'm going to say though, the last 15 minutes when we had Bertrand Traore on the right wing and we had Leon Bailey on the left wing, we were completely different animal. Like they were scared. And I know I don't want to say this because I do want to say it, and it's me trying to probably clutching at straws. But I think if that game goes on for another 5-6 7 minutes, I think
Oh
we get
yeah,
another goal. Because I think we had him on the ropes. Like that, the foul for the penalty was a tired Watford foul. I think the Bertrand Traore, I think Bertrand Traore probably would have won another penalty because he was driving at that left back and he was making life difficult for them.
I haven't seen it back, but should Cash have gone down? There's one afterwards where it felt very much like he should have gone down at the time. I could be completely wrong. Straight after.
I can't remember.
He stayed on his film. Obviously not. Then if nothing was made on it on the feed that you watched, then obviously we didn't. But everyone in the away end was going mad, saying he should have gone down. Why didn't he go down?
I was watching the feed I had Dutch commentary, so maybe they did make a massive deal out of it, but unfortunately, I needed to ring Steve McLaren for a few lessons in Dutch, but it didn't happen.
I mean, you've touched on the subs. I would go as far as to say the 3 subs were our 3 best players.
Yeah. And John McGinn. I think John McGinn was very good. I think watching it back on a second viewing, he did absolute dog's work inside the midfield. He was fantastic. The amount of ground he covered. Yes, he was chasing the ball as opposed to getting in positions to win it, but he never, like, literally, that's what you get from John McGinn. John McGinn's never say die. He's not going to give up, and some people see that as a negative, but like, I myself think the very first goal, he is trying to atone for somebody else's mistake, and that can be a bit difficult at times, and sometimes that can make you look like the bad guy. But his goal was an absolute banger. Like, how do you even take that with your left foot on the half volley?
Great goal.
That's just crazy stuff.
I'd have loved to have celebrated it. I didn't celebrate either goal, to be perfectly honest. I'm almost more annoyed at losing 3-2. I feel like I'd have rather lost 3-0 in some ways. I know a few people that actually left at 3-0. I won't name many names, but yeah, look at yourself in the mirror, lads. I definitely won't name the names I was going to them, but I won't. No, it wasn't. I'll just say it wasn't Dolan. He was sat next to me before people think that's what I'm going on about. But you get back to 3-2. It's almost more annoying. And I've gone on an away day, the first one for bloody ages. I haven't celebrated anything. I've just been annoyed.
Yeah, and. Yeah, it's like but I put out a tweet afterwards, and for me, I think it was a frustrating game. For obviously for you were there, and for everyone else that was there, it was a frustrating game, and for everyone who watched it on TV, I think the players will get a small bit of heart from it because, like, it's not like players walk around the place and go, "I was absolutely brilliant in the first half." They'll know that things didn't go right in the first half. They'll know what they did wrong, and I don't think Dean Smith went in and patted anyone on the head and said hard luck. He kind of came out and he kind of told it like it was in the press conference afterwards. And to be honest with you, yes, I am a Dean Smith stan, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to defend him quite a lot. But I don't think he needs defending an awful lot from yesterday because I think the game plan just didn't work. I think the game plan wasn't executed. Yes, it may not have worked, but it certainly wasn't executed the way it was supposed to happen. And then you're 2-0 down at halftime. He makes the changes at halftime. Some people were saying that the bringing on of Jacob Ramsey was an absolute heads gone moment. It turned out like within the first 6 minutes of him coming on, he was our best player. And then Leon Bailey comes in, whips one in for John McGinn, and Bertrand Traore wins a penalty. So I think there's a lot of learnings. I think there's a lot of adaptation that Dean Smith did during the game, specifically at second half. And I think in the second half, we were the better team in the second half. But when you've got a 2-goal cushion away from home, or playing at home, when Watford had a 2-goal cushion playing from home, it takes a damn good team to kind of break down that. And Villa just ran out of time, I think, at the end, because Watford, I genuinely feel we're running out of steam.
Yeah, you've touched on him a little bit. Leon Bailey came on, I think it was after an hour. He came on, looked very good. To me, he looks like he's the one who's going to be the go-to guy in the sense of you need something to happen like we did with Jack. You give Leon Bailey the ball. He's
going to win frees too. So we're not going to lose out in the free kick stakes. So Aston McPhee is still going to have his hands full, with drawing up bits and pieces. Absolutely, we played him on the left. He's actually played more on the left than he has played on the right for Leverkusen. Yes, his best seasons have come from the right, but I think that was more so from the point of trying to keep the team somewhat balanced, especially when Traore came on. But yeah, he's a direct runner. His cross was very good. He picked out John McGinn. That wasn't an aimless cross. I think a lot of the times when El Ghazi gets the ball and when our fullbacks get the ball, there
were some aimless crosses in that game.
I think more so. Yeah, I think the cross to I think there was more of a case of not being used to Danny Ings, or Danny Ings not being used to them. And I think we crossed to a position where a player should be, or where a player should get into. And I think there was a lot of miscommunication there potentially from the striker. But then again, Danny Ings' forte isn't getting his head on the ball at the back post. You know, that's not his game. I'm going to say something here, Dan, and I'm sure the chat might go a small bit mad, but I wouldn't have been adverse at some stage if we could have made more substitutions to go on 4-4-2 and bring a Wesley on, because someone to go up there and throw a couple of elbows at those three big brutes that they had in the centre half positions would have been pretty decent, I think, and I think Ings would have thrived off it. But you know, it just wasn't to be. And look, there's going to be games where we're going to need to kind of front up the kind of guys like that if we're not able to pass through the middle. And maybe if Wesley does stay around, that's going to be his, you know, he's part of the team.
Impact sub.
Impact, yeah, to literally make an impact on someone's forehead.
I would say though, if you're not coming on in that circumstance against Watford, you're probably not going to see much football. Just off the top of my head, you know, your number 9, he's not coming on when you're chasing a game at somewhere like Watford. Is he gonna play that much?
Yeah, well, I think maybe another thing is when you have to make the early substitution for Jacob Ramsey, do you kind of go, well, look, we already have a £30 million striker that gets goals anyway in there, and yes, he got his penalty, and I think that's very good from a sports psychology point of view for him.
Off the mark.
But do you bring on your wingers to try and be more creative to get the ball into somebody who has the most Premier League goals behind Salah and Harry Kane over the last 2 seasons, or do you bring in Wesley? I think if Wesley was coming on, I think it would have been probably at the behest of Bertrand Traore, but as we know, Bertrand caused them a lot of problems when he came on.
3 subs were good. That's something Dennis gets criticism for, but yesterday 3 subs, you know, okay, it's not great to have to use them to try and turn a game. That's what they're there for. The 3 subs he utilised did well. As I say, I think they were the 3 best players personally.
Yeah, well, I agree.
Yeah, I don't think there's much else for us to unpick unless there's anything blatant I'm missing that you can think of now.
There's one thing. I'm loving the standard of refereeing this season.
Yeah, good. Oh, I had one more thing as well. The refereeing, yes, very good. Also, will say, you know, a lot of home teams weren't having the crowds back. Again, it's a bit of a cop-out, but I did think that this weekend a lot of the teams playing at home would win, and it turned out to be true. A few that you wouldn't expect as well, a few very convincing. So I think that first game back in front of a full house, having your own fans, probably does help as well.
Yeah, and I can't remember seeing VAR being used in a game so far this season. You know, which is always a plus.
In the ground. Yeah, the lines seem to be a bit thicker and stuff for the offsides and that this season as well, so that's good. I think there seems to be a more relaxed tone in the refereeing for the first week, so maybe we'll do these shows and not have to talk about the referees and VAR like we did every single week when we were watching from home, so that'll no doubt be a positive thing. Let's end it there. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the start of the show. Thank you ever so much to Neil for joining me. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm sure you'll be on again soon. We'll have a podcast on midweek at some point. Keep your eye on our socials and we'll let you know when that's coming. And then we'll be back for a post-match point the day after the Newcastle game. So next Sunday, probably around the same time as we have done this week. Fingers crossed this time we'll get to talk around 3 points rather than a disappointing defeat. Thank you to Purity as well for sponsoring us. If you do want to get 10% off all their goods, then if you use the code #VillaView, you'll be able to do exactly that. And thank you to them because they'll be sponsoring our post-match shows throughout the whole season. Thanks ever so much for watching as well. If you'd like to subscribe to the Villa View with your post notifications on, that would be absolutely fantastic. Something I usually forget to say every week, so I've got off to a good start this time on the post-match points. Hope you all have a good week. Look out for the podcast midweek. Up the Villa.